We've got all kinds of different fish to talk about this week. The heat is on and we're in the dog days of summer, but the fish, they're still biting. Bass, crappie, catfish, redfish, and red snapper. Our captains have it all covered here on the Texas Insider Fishing Report.
Welcome to the Texas Insider Fishing Report. Presented by Yamaha.
Hello and welcome back to the Texas Insider Fishing Report. We're your hosts, Brie Gabrielle and Captain Tommy Derringer, who's filling in for Rick this week, and we are ready to bring you into August with reports from all over the state. Thanks for being here, Tommy.
Thanks for having me.
Rick today?
I think he's on vacay. I think he's on vacation.
Think he's fishing?
He's probably fishing.
Somebody has to do it, right?
That's right.
I know. All right, well, let's head on over to the workbench and see what Dave Farrell has for us for this fine weekend. Dave?
I'm here.
You're
I'm not
here.
on vacation.
You're always here. You're our tried and true workbench guru.
I gotta make money.
Me too.
I've got a wife at home who wants some money.
Yeah, I understand. I understand that. What were you doing today over there?
We're talking about flounder.
Ooh.
Man,
love some flounder.
Getting a jump on it.
Okay. I like it. Tommy, you know a little bit about flounder.
I know a little bit about flounder.
Something up your sleeve.
Yeah, that's
right. All right, we're starting August off right in the Upper Fresh region with Johnny Geist. So, Johnny, tell us where to go and what we'll be catching.
Hello, Brie and Tommy. Well, we're going to start out today talking about the bass over on Lake Welsh. Man, the summertime on Welsh is usually a tough time to catch bass because the water temperatures over there get right at 100 degrees over most of the lake. The best thing about Welsh, though, is that there's hardly any fishing pressure right now during the week and not hardly any on the weekends. Only 2 boats were there today. Most anglers will not start fishing again on Welsh until October, but, man, August has always been a good month for me, and this old coal-powered power plant has got a lot of fish in it. The hydrilla is starting to die back due to that hot water, and the grass lines are starting to recede on the upper end of the lake. A couple of recent trips to Welsh this past week made for some interesting fishing. Our first trip, we started off with some good fishing right near the intake. This is some current moving there even when the plant's not generating, and the bass will stage close to that hydrilla points near that intake. We caught several bass in the 5-pound range early on Ned rigs. We were casting close to the hydrilla covered points, but not on them, out from it. At this time, the bass don't seem to be holding in the grass. They're staying just outside the last growing grass line on that point. The bass are feeding on very small threadfin shad, about 2 inches. We found several areas near the dam with huge schools of bass suspended in 16 to 18 foot. Usually, these suspended bass are hard to catch, but a small weight in front of a weightless style fluke bait was a ticket to getting the better bass to bite. Also got more strikes and caught more fish when I went down to 4 to 6 pound line. I even downsized to a small crappie jig head, put on a 3-inch piece of green pumpkin type fluke tail and reeled it slowly through the suspended bass, and we caught them. This was best bait and caught most of the bass that day. Around 9 o'clock, we had a flurry of schooling activity on the main lake, but we could not figure out anything they'd hit. The bait was so small they were on. We did notice a very small threadfin shad on the surface, and a lot of it was starting to die off due to the heat. Ended up about 29 bass by noon, several of them over 5 pounds. 2 days later, we made another trip over there, expecting to catch them even better, but we didn't get a bite and just gave up by noon. My Garmin live scope still showed huge schools of bass, but they were not in a feeding mood. So we did see a lot of dead shad on the surface and also alarming number of bass starting to die off in the grass, so it really needs to get cooled down a little bit. Water temps may be a little critical right now, and they might be affected as this water gets over 100 degrees. We did find some shallow bass up a creek in less than 5 foot of water, and there were hundreds of them in this hydrilla creek. But again, we couldn't get those to bite. We need some rain, cooler temps, but Welsh is loaded with quality-sized bass. Still a great place to fish. Here's a couple of pictures of the Welsh bass we caught last week. As you can see, those are some pretty good ones. Brie, that's right near the fence where you caught them while you were there.
Yeah, that was a fun trip. That was so awesome.
Yeah, let's talk about the crappie over on Lake Fork. Right now, that's the most consistent bite around this area. Pretty much crappie everywhere, but especially on Fork. Bass anglers are finding a few schools of bass that are willing to bite on some days, afternoons being the best times, but most days it's kind of hard to catch a few bass here. The crappie trips have been very consistent. Most anglers are catching limits on half-day trips. Crappie are holding on brush piles right now, down timber, and they're biting best on minnows at this time, just a straight minnow rig. We're starting to use some hair jigs now. You still have to tip it with a small minnow, and that's working good also. I got a picture here of some customers this week, and you can see the quality of the crappie that we've got on Lake Fork, and man, this group comes quite often. They had a good time. I got a good guide buddy here on Lake, guide Mike McFarland. Man, Mike's been having some pretty good success on some big bass the last few days, using some Magnum 8-inch worms. He's finding some of these big bass they're holding in that timber. He's using a Texas rigged 8-inch worm to trick them into biting. Some days these bass will bite, and some days they won't, just like all the fish right now. It's usually because they've already fed up and they're just not hungry. Catching bass is a timing thing right now, especially this time of year, and you got to keep hitting the good spots until you find a school ready to bite. So you do a lot of rotating and looking. McFarland says the bite's still tough on most days, but his customers are catching a few big ones. He shared a couple of pictures with me this week, and here's Mike with a couple of big Lake Fork bass his customers had, and you can see the quality that we're catching here on Fork.
Wow. Those are nice.
Nice, Johnny. Thanks.
Yeah, August is a tough month due to that heat, and the fish still got to feed. I'd say be careful out there and drink plenty of water, and get a good pair of Polaroid glasses like the Bios, and don't forget the sunscreen. You might consider night fishing this time of year to beat that heat. Hey, I'll see you on the lake. Let's go.
Thanks, Johnny. Great report, man. Here are the hot spots for the upper fresh region. Lake Welsh fishing is still good despite the 100-degree water temperatures, and bass are schooling in 24 feet, feeding on small threadfin shad. Sea rigs and drop shots are working best under schools. Lake Fork crappie continue to bite best on minnows, and the best depths are 18 to 24 feet. And bass are biting in the afternoons on flutter spoons and shaky head plastics.
100-degree water temp.
100 degrees.
Whoa, that's
That
insane.
is hot.
It's very hot for me right now. Okay, now let's feast in the lower fresh region on a smorgasbord of lake options from Fayette County, Somerville, and Decker to Buchanan, Choke Canyon, and of course, Lake Falcon. Talk to us, Matt.
All right, Bree, let's get this rolling. Greg Boyd sent me a report from Fayette County. It's been fair the past week. Swim jigs and the bluegill patterns have been working well shallow early. Later in the day, you want to move out deep in that 15 to 20 foot range on the lake point, around the intakes, also the road beds, any type of structure, drop-off structure, hard bottom. Those schools are biting, half-ounce shaky head with a big worm on it or a Carolina rig. Also catching a few on a big flutter spoon. Like Somerville, the bass have been biting really early on poppers around the rocky banks. Then again, you want to move out to the deeper brush piles with a Texas rig, 10-inch worm, 3/8 ounce brush jigs have also been working well. The best bite at Somerville is at night. As hot as it is, big worms and big Colorado bladed spinnerbaits have been catching those fish at night. Brian Cotter sent me reports from several Austin area lakes like Decker. The full moon last week shut them down a little bit, but they're starting to kick back up. A little bit of schooling action in the discharge in the morning, not as much as there has been in past years, but there's still some. You can catch those fish on a small swim bait or a jigging spoon, little jigging spoon, because they're feeding on tiny shad. You also want to throw a Texas rigs or shaky head around that area to get you some more bites in the rocks there. The best bite there is coming around the vegetation on the main lake. Good top water bite around that topped out hydrilla. Bass seem to be chasing dragonflies, so get you a small top water and get after them. Lake Buchanan is fishing well. In the morning, work shallow rock piles with top waters or a square bill crankbait, and that will get you bit early in the morning on those shallow rocks. A frog will also work, near the laydowns and bushes. Later in the day, you want to move out deeper and drag a jig or a Texas rig out on the drop, on the drop-offs out there. You can also throw a drop shot on a finesse rig to get some of those bites from those pressured fish out deep. Like baits, send me a report from Cope Canyon. The bite just depends on the weather right now. The high sky days with very little wind, the bite's only early. Cloudy days, it lasts most of the days. The fish have become very selective because the water temperature's gone up. Your top water baits have been working well, but they need to be very natural. Swim baits, the flukes, they're biting those too, but it really needs to imitate the shad and bluegill well. Later on, you want to concentrate around the topped out hydrilla. Fish very slow because the bass are sluggish because of the water temps. Got a picture there with Brian Cotter with a big old bass from the Austin area. That's what's so fun about Texas. We've got big ones in most of the areas. Move on down Falcon and talk about a little catfish. We've had a little bit of rise in water. Shallow keeper size catfish are shallow along that new growth. You want to throw small shad, shrimp, or cut bait. That'll do the job for those keeper size cats. The bigger ones are hanging out deeper and eating early and late on the shallow spots along the river channel. Cut carp and live tilapia have been the key. That's a picture from Ram Reyes of one of his clients this week with a big old blue cat.
Nice.
Well, another thing that Ram does, he guides for alligator gar down at Falcon. Those creatures are amazing. They're really shallow right now with that new growth. They bow hunt them that way in the day or at night under lights. They're also catching a ton of them on cut carp or live bait up shallow. And he's hooking tons of great big ones right now. That picture just shows you a dinosaur. That gar was 7 foot long and 39 inches in girth. Do the math. I'm sure that's a 200-pound fish.
Wow.
Wow.
Those things are amazing, and the lake is full of them. So give Ram a call if you want to get out there and chase some of those.
Wow, man, that is a monster right there. Thanks, man. Great report. Here are the Fiber Tech hotspots for the lower fresh region. Rising water at Falcon Lake has keeper-sized catfish shallow eating along the bank throughout the day. Small shad, shrimp, or cut bait will do the job, and the bigger catfish, they're hanging out deeper and eating early and late on the humps along the river.
All right, Tommy, well, the weekend is upon us in the Garmin Middle Coast region next, but first we're getting some rigs and techniques info at the workbench with Dave Farrell and yourself. What are we talking about today, Dave?
Well, we're going to show you a couple unique ways to catch flounder.
Ooh.
Yeah, some little stuff that's you wouldn't think of.
Flounder pounder.
Yeah.
Flounder pounder.
All right, Dave, we're doing some flounder pounding here. The rigs and techniques here at the bench.
It's
what do we got
a little
going
early.
on?
It's hot, but it's always good time to get a jump on it and get people to know what to expect once the fall comes. I mean, you can catch flounder all year round in Texas, but the big push is in the fall and in the spring is when you catch a lot of them. Cold fronts off in the Gulf of Mexico pushes all the fish up into the bays and stuff. Flounder can take a whole range of salinity and temperatures, so that's a great
They don't
thing.
mind the hot. They don't mind the hot
they
so
don't
much.
mind hot.
They'll eat during the hot stuff.
And they'll come up into cold water too. So they're a very versatile fish, but a lot of times you'll catch a lot of them during the fall. When we're out there trying to catch them, obviously we want to try to use the things that they're eating. You want to target them in places where there's a lot of bait. If you're seeing a lot of bait, that's a good place to fish for them. If it's a shallow area,
That's always what I look for.
Yeah.
That's the number one thing when fishing for flounder is
you got to
look
see
for
bait.
the bait.
If you can fish for redfish and stuff if you don't see a whole lot of bait around. But if you don't see a lot of bait, then you're probably not a flounders there because they sit in the mud. They hunker down. They're flat fish. They got all the 2 eyeballs on the left side of their head, southern flounder, and they'll get down into the silt and hide with just their eyeballs sticking up.
Right.
And the bait has to come by really close to them so that they can just snap up out of the sand and grab it and
They're
eat
super aggressive, but they do need to have that bait in their their range.
And they are aggressive. They've got
really are.
really sharp teeth, so especially if you're feeding them a live bait, you got to let them eat it.
Right.
You got to let them eat it, and then you got to let them eat it a little bit more, and then you go to
I think every report or seminar, anything I've ever done, the one thing when I talk about flounder fishing is let them eat the bait.
Right. Because what they do is they grab it and they try to kill it. They got those sharp teeth, and they're grabbing fish, which are, and that's how they do it. They don't swallow it whole like a lot of fish do.
They slowly kind of work
down.
They
grab it and kill it before they swallow it.
Right.
So, and that's what happens if you try to set the hook before he's finished chewing on him, then you're gonna get you're not gonna get the fish.
Right. So you're gonna come back with half a bait.
But the best thing to use for him is either a finger mullet, or best of all is a mud minnow.
Mud minnows are great, right?
And when you're using a mud minnow, you want to use a kale hook like what you got right there, right? And this is the kind of a fish finder rig that you would use.
Yeah, this is probably the more typical rig you would see. You're going to use a swivel and a weight either below or above it.
The swivel.
Either way. The main thing when you're using this rig is use enough weight to get it to the bottom.
Yeah, the bait has to be within 1 or 2 feet of the bottom.
Right.
Usually.
If that weight's on the bottom and your bait's here, he's going to see it. But if the weight is up here off the bottom, he's not going to see the bait. So you got to have it on the bottom. Basically, you're just going to hook. If this was a live bait, you're just going to hook them through the lips and let them drag across the bottom with this. I would stop it every once in a while, let the bait move a little bit. But like I said, the main thing is use enough weight for what you're fishing. If there's a heavy current, you might have to use a couple ounces of weight.
Right.
If there's not much, you can use a little half ounce or quarter ounce or whatever that might be.
And you also told me that you like to use a popping cork.
Now, yeah, so it kind of doesn't sound like that would
it's
be
counterintuitive,
right.
Keep it on the bottom, but
if you say you're fishing a couple feet of water and you're fishing a little slough where there's a ton of bait, you can cast this up into that slough in a current and let this come out with the current and let that bait drag right above the bottom, which is a perfect
presentation for a
perfect
flounder.
Place for that bait to be for the flounder to see it. And that works really well.
Plus, you can see where your bait is all the
right,
time.
and a lot of times when that flounder eats this thing, the cork just stops.
Right.
Because he, just like you said, he bites it, then sits there with it. Wait till he has it until it starts going down, then start to reel him in.
I gotcha.
Kale hook, yes, I think that's probably the best hook going for flounder all around.
Yeah, it fits that big mouth they got too. Also, you like to use a spinnerbait.
Spinnerbait, man, I tell you, this is my favorite way to catch flounder. It's a ton of fun. A regular spinnerbait, this one's got 2 blades. You can use a 1-blade version. You can use an inline version. But I like to throw it on a bait caster because basically it's a super easy way to fish them. You just throw it out and you just slowly reel it so it's right along or just above the bottom.
Right.
And with this setup, when he thumps that thing, he thumps it, man. It's just a really cool feeling. It's
and
a lot of fun.
You don't have to worry about letting him eat it when he comes up and nails that thing.
That's a lot of fun. If you're fishing a higher water scenario where you can fish along a grass line, that's my bait of choice.
A spinnerbait really allows you to keep the bait where you want it in the water column just by picking up the speed or dropping the speed.
And redfish will eat that like crazy too.
Yeah. And I tell you what, last but not least, I'd like to say I like to use a little Pompano jig with a little bit of fish bites on it. I've caught a lot of flounder around docks and places where a boat has been and then comes and goes a lot and makes a little trough.
Right.
You throw that in there with little fish bites on it.
Well, Dave, there's a lot of stuff we could talk. I could talk all day about flounder,
yes, we could.
But Brie,
and they're good to eat.
Yeah,
so
we got places to be.
We got places to be.
All right, the Garmin Middle Coast region is showing us its true colors, and Captain Bink Grimes is on the line to interpret them. Go for it, Bink.
I tell you what, the surf has been on fire. It finally happened this week, and it's been the best fishing of 2021. I like feeding those trout topwaters in the surf. A few blow-ups rival a surf trout banging a plug, and it seems like the best bites have come on those pearl chartreuse and pink she-dogs and mirror lure she-pups. Those baits are just bigger and noisier, and I think the fish locate them amid all the gobs of menhaden, mullet, and shrimp. Those Gulf fish they're just wired different because they're at the top of the food chain, and they got a lot of predators out there. Guys in Port O'Connor have been enjoying the same. Many are heading south out of Pascoval and fishing the Darlington wreck. Some are hanging around the jetties and walking the rock. They're tossing she-dogs in the New Berkeley J. Walker topwaters. Along Surfside Beach near Freeport, you don't need a boat. There's miles of sand. You can fish on foot, and it's regularly coughs up good trout. It did this week. Most tossed plugs and soft plastics, but a lot of them were good on live shrimp. Waders around San Luis Pass, 2 have been catching them on 51M mirror lures, soft dines, and bass assassins. The baits have been profitable as well. Deep Reefs and West Matagorda Bay are holding easy limits on live shrimp under a mid-coast cork. Shell Island, Mad Island, Twin Island, they're all holding really good numbers of trout mixed in the bag. A lot of drifting. East Bay has been good with live shrimp. Rockport anglers, they've gone tight to the shorelines early in the morning for trout on corkies and small topwaters. Later in the day, those fish are falling to that deep grass, those drop-offs, sand flats, and about belly-deep water, and they're eating bass assassins and mirror lure little johns. We'll go redfish. There remains a lot of redfish in the surf. Most of those fish are tied on the beach in the first gut. If you make a long cast into that first gut, you're going to get eaten by redfish. The Surfside, Matagorda, and Port O'Connor Jetty are holding large numbers of redfish on pogies and table shrimp. Waders along the West Matagorda Bay shoreline said those redfish are holding tight to the grass line. Don't be surprised to find schools of redfish under birds on the shorelines on calm days. What's happening, a lot of those shrimp are getting in that grass, and those redfish are rooting them out, and they're pushing those shrimp to the top, and the birds are eating them, and they're just basically showing you where the fish are. The end of the jetty in Matagorda is holding lots of upper slot redfish on menhaden shrimp and mullet. Those reds are following the gobs and pogies that are coming through the Colorado River right now, which they always do in August. We've got calm seas, and a lot of pogies are coming through the Gulf and coming through the Colorado River. The Port O'Connor and Port Aransas jetties are holding lots of bull reds while soaking finfish on the bottom. Incoming tide have been good for big old bull reds to 40 inches. Photo there is a large fish that was roaming the surf and jetties, and there's just lots of them up and down the coast right now. Offshore, large schools of tarpon are showing just off the beach in Matagorda, as they always do in August and September. They're shadowing those big rafts of pogie. They're fickle creatures. One day they bite, one day they don't. That's tarpon fishing. Same in Texas, same in Louisiana, Florida. They're just tarpon. The consensus among tarpon anglers have been the fish are rolling and greyhounding at about 40 foot of water just off the beach near Freeport and Matagorda. However, there's some 90-foot channels around the Port O'Connor jetty that are holding tarpon, and you're intercepting them with, pogies and throwing also coon pops. Many boats are off the tip of the jetty. They're waiting for tarpon to roll, and then they're sight casting to them as well. There's a large school of menhaden, like I said, coming through on the beachfront as well. There's a lot of big old table shrimp, those 6 to 8 count jumbo table shrimp that those tarpon are eating as well. As well as tarpon, there's Dorado along the weed lines. There's a lot of cobia showing up right now. Red snapper as well, but our red snapper season closes August the 5th. And but we've had a really, really good 2 weeks of surf fishing, and it's forecast this week or for the same. That's another really, really solid week of fishing along the Garmin Middle Coast region. We just ask you to keep taking care of our bays and oceans, and please release more than you take from our bays.
Thanks, Bink. Great report. Those tarpon sound like a lot of fun, man. Here are the mirror lure hotspots from the Middle Coast region. Trout in the surf on sheep hups while working the first gut, and redfish at the Port O'Connor jetty on shrimp and pogies, those big shrimps.
Big shrimps.
Eating shrimp.
And yes, tarpon are fun, but they are fickle. He's quite
a
right.
little bit.
Quite right.
Definitely.
All right, and here's your weekly reminder that if you would like a chance to win the exact 1952 Chevy 3100 hot rod we have here in the studio, all you have to do is purchase raffle tickets at ccaflorida.org/hot rod, and of course win. Buying them, and then there's winning them.
Yeah,
Big difference.
That would be pretty cool to win. That's a pretty cool truck.
I know. I could see myself in that. I could see you in that.
Yeah, I could be in that.
I could see me more. All right, the Fish Bites Upper Coast and Star Trout Middle Fresh regions have a lot to talk about for your weekend fishing excursions, so stay hooked and remember to keep up with everything fishing in Texas. Make sure to head on over to our website, like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter and Instagram, and to see new fishing adventures along with reports, subscribe to our YouTube channel, Captain Rick Murphy. We'll see you soon. Who's Captain Rick Murphy?
You know what, Brie, he's right. That is so much easier than having to get an anchor out and you're at the sandbar and all that kind of stuff. It's just super convenient and
Had that experience before.
Yeah, everything that PowerPole makes, man, it's strong. It's gonna.
And like Jeff said, they'll stroke you a check for $100.
Stroke you a check. I can't beat that.
Getting money back.
Yeah.
All right, we've got Reds, Trout, Red Snapper, and AJ's coming at y'all on the Fish Bites Upper Coast region, and Captain Carl Weston is here to get us on them. Talk to us, Carl.
Hey guys, let's start off today on redfish. Over in Texas City, we had some very nice reds running the shorelines this week. Over near East Galveston Bay, we've had big schools on the oyster reefs and near the ship channel. Now over on the northwestern and east side of Trinity Bay, that's been looking real good too, folks. And as this water temp continues to rise, the shad can be seen all along the jetties and the shoreline running back and forth. Live finger mullet on a popping cork has been our favorite option for live bait this week. But the artificials is a force to be reckoned with in this water this week. The way it's clear, it's warm. Mirror hard baits and their twitch baits are just something you just got to try. They've been blowing up on almost anything topwater. And moving on over to trout, let's drop right into the trout this week. The temperature, like I say, is rising. Sabine Lake is looking really good this week. From the chip channel down to the river, trout fishing has been solid in that 2 to 4 foot range. Supermoon is finally over here, so the bite is getting back to normal. Over in Bolivar, the trout have been chasing bait all along the North Jetty, and with the winds moving in, live shrimp on a popping cork has been top for live bait again along the jetties. Over Trinity, watch for the birds on the flats as usual early in the morning, and that the Berkeley Chapo 90, which we've talked about all year, is still one of the top baits you can throw in this area for this fish. So I believe we have a Manny with a big stringer of trout here today, guys.
Wow, nice
Go
one.
Manny, woo!
Yeah, Manny tore him up. So, talking about red snapper, the season's coming to an end. They added a few days, I believe. Don't take this for gospel, but I think it runs into Thursday this week at midnight, which was really nice. But so we're hitting triple digits here in Texas, and it's heating up everything. It's heating up the water, the bait, and we've had some really big fish this past week. The red snapper is still hanging in structure for us, 80 out to 300 foot. Structure seems to be where you should be for these fish the rest of the week. I set up my rods with a slip rig with 8 to 10 ounce in the shallower water with that egg sinker, 8 ounce trocar hook, circle hook. And they've also been hitting the shad pretty hard. We're catching live shad on the beach with a cast net in the morning. So if you're going to go, and you know what, sign up for the Star Tournament this year if you're going to go fishing. We had a young man come the other day and put a huge red snapper on the boat, 35-inch, 22-plus pounds. And I'd asked him, hey, you in the Star Tournament? He said, the what? So anyway, we got back, looked at the standings, and I think in our area we were at 20 pounds. He would have been 2.5 pounds over. So don't let this heartbreaker happen to you. And Brie, we got a picture here of this gentleman, Sam, with his heartbreaking fish.
Whoa.
That's a heartbreaker.
Monster.
My heart's in a bajillion pieces right now. Congrats. But
Yeah. So moving to Amberjack, we'll go from heartbreaking into some backbreaking because we have big Amberjack here in the North Texas coast. And so Amberjack season started August 1st, Sunday. And, an adult Amberjack can weigh up to 200 pounds. Most areas don't see them that big. Like, last year before, I think it was, we put one up at 131 pounds, which is an amazing fish. So, Amberjack love live hardtails. It is their candy here. But if you want to go with a spinning rod setup with a knife or a butterfly jig over structure, have at it. I'll pass on that. I'll stick to a Penn International, like a 30 or 50 wide myself. But guys, it is a lot of fun. If you haven't done that fishery, get out and get on one of these big fish and just have a great time. These fish are usually suspended about midway up in the water column. You'll see some big marks and drop down and get ready. Today we have a picture of Mr. Nick from Crockett with a pretty AJ.
Nice. That's the house of pain right there. Those big dogs.
I'll pass it off every time.
Yes, sir.
All right, thanks, Carl. Here are the R&R tackle hotspots for the Upper Coast region. Inshore, redfish casting Berkeley hardbaits over the oyster reefs. And offshore, amberjack in the 120 to 200 foot depths using live hardtails. Use a strong reel such as a Pen 30 or 50 wide. Use something strong because those fish will beat you up.
And get yourself a back brace.
Yeah.
All right, we've got some summertime tips for you in the Star Charn Middle Fresh region. So let's get Matt Loescher on the line to see how the bait has been and what we can do to prepare for the weekend ahead. Go for it, Matt.
All right, Bree. So I'm going to start off the week talking about the largemouth bass first. The fishing overall lately has been a little bit tough here in the Middle Fresh region. It's just, it's that time of year when the summer bite kind of quiets down a little bit and the fall bite hasn't quite kicked in yet. So it's kind of a lull period. It's really stinking hot out there. However, doesn't mean you can't have a great day of fishing. We've still had some really good days jerking on these largemouth bass lately. We had our bass camp last week for the kids and had a good time catching a bunch of fish. Like I said, it's just hot and you may have to work a little harder at it. But here on Toledo Bend, the good news is they're really bunched up. So when you do find them, there's normally a lot of them in the school. Now, they've been hanging out in about 10 to 20 foot of water, and timing is the key to catching them. So you may pull up on a school and they're not biting. Don't be afraid to come back later and check them again because they might be just chomping later on. Some of the schools feed better early in the morning. Some of them feed later in the day. You just kind of have to work them a little bit. They don't give it up real easy right now. You got to kind of check them multiple times, try different baits. But generally speaking, a crankbait and a worm are my go-to baits right now. I like to throw a shad-colored crankbait that dives about 15 to 20 foot deep so I can dredge it into the bottom and get that reaction strike. And then for the worm, Junebug Red has been the most productive color. There has also been some schooling activity here on the surface at Toledo Bend, and most of that happens really early in the morning. They come up chasing that bait early while the sun's kind of low in the sky. And then some days it'll drag on a little bit later, 9, 10 o'clock in the morning. But for the most part, it's an early morning or late evening deal. And you can catch those fish on a walking style topwater bait. Now down at LBJ, Jared Poole with Hill Country Hammer Guide Service, he reports a tough bite this week as well. He tells me that they are still catching their bass primarily on a Carolina rig, fishing offshore structure. They're just having to work a little harder at it, kind of like I was talking about here at Toledo Bend. It's just, like I said, it's just that time of year, but you can still catch some really good fish, so don't get too discouraged. Get out there and drag that Carolina rig on the offshore structure, you can catch some good ones. At Lake Buchanan, he says it's a similar deal with the Carolina rig being their best producer on the offshore structure there as well, and they're catching some pretty good quality fish. He left me with a photo of his son, Gavin, with a nice bass, showing off what you can do. Got the youngsters out there grinding it out, and got rewarded with a nice bass there. Good job, Gavin.
Face, I love it.
Serious. He's serious about that bass. Good for him.
It's always good when the kids catch a nice one.
Yes.
Now, moving over to the crappie, they're kind of a different story this week here in the Star Charn Middle Fresh region. They've been biting a little bit better for us here at Toledo Bend and some of the other lakes as well. We're catching them out in 20 to 30 foot of water right now around the standing timber, and timing is important for them as well. This week, the morning bite seems to be the best when the sun's a little bit lower, or throughout the day, if you can get some wind, that wind helps the bite a lot. We've had a lot of really calm days lately, and it's been just, like I said, super hot, and the water's been super glass calm. When there's no wind at all, those fish get really skittish, and it's just a tougher bite. It's hard to get on top of them and catch them. But so look for that wind and look for the early morning bite to be better. Live minnows have kind of been the best bite lately. They've been outperforming the jigs a little bit, but you can still catch some on those panfish, sass, and jigs, especially if you stay off the fish and cast to them. And stick with your natural colors, like that little pumpkin seed shad. It's still been really good, or like your monkey milk, something that's kind of natural shad colored. Got a photo here for you of a nice table full of crappie. As you can see, we've been catching some real nice ones. That's a family that came and fished with me this week, and we had a great time catching some good splads. And we caught most of those pretty quick early in the morning, so good day of fishing. Now, over at Sam Rayburn, that's been really hot lake this week for crappie because the water level continues to fall over there. The current water elevation is 166.5-ish over there, so it's still 2 foot above pool level, but that's way down from what it was throughout the early part of the summer. So that makes for a great offshore bite, has those fish pulling out off of those flats and stacking up on the offshore timber in about 20 to 30 foot of water, and around those bridge pilings, around that 147 bridge is a great place. Now, finishing up, I'm going to talk about the bow fishing real quick. it's a great way to beat this brutal summertime heat that we've been having lately. Jared Poole tells me that the action has been really good at Lake Buchanan lately. He said it was a very target-rich environment. So if you're in that area, I would highly recommend checking that out. It sounds like they're getting a lot of shots each night, and if you want to go but you don't have the rig for it or the know-how to do it, get with Jared and his crew at Hill Country Hammer Guides and Outfitters. They've got a boat that's fully rigged to do it. They've got all the gear you need, and they can teach you what you need to be a good shot. And I'm going to leave you with a photo of some of Jared's clients showing off some of those big targets that they've been shooting at. Got some real nice fish there, so it's a lot of fun to go get those things.
Nice, Matt. Thank you. Here are the hot spots for the middle fresh region. Largemouth bass are hanging out in 10 to 20 feet, biting crankbaits, worms, and Carolina rigs. And crappie are in the 20 to 30 foot depth, biting best on live minnows. And bow fishing, like we just talked about, is hot on Lake Buchanan.
Well, Tommy, as you know, Bahio sunglasses are definitely the summer trend out there on the water, and all you have to do to win a pair is to enter in the My Bahio Summer Contest. Share a photo or video of your fishing paradise and tag and follow My Bahio and Bahio Sunglasses. If your favorite fishing spot is chosen, you'll win a free pair of shades and other Bahio gear. One winner will be chosen every Friday until the end of summer. Those are pretty good odds.
Man, that is so
I'd do
cool.
it. I mean, I got a few pair, but I love them. They're so great.
You got to get, I mean, I would, yes, enter.
It totally changes the way you look at the water.
The
That
lenses,
the blue light.
Oh my gosh,
That blue
amazing.
light, though, is amazing. All right, the Alvey Reels Lower Coast region is ready and calling our name, but first, I see some new products at the workbench that Dave has for some show and tell.
Yes.
Yes.
Got some little danglers over here.
Dangles.
Yeah, exactly. Little dropper
Dangle.
loops for the surf. You know, they say they're called pompano catchers, but they catch everything.
Nice. We'll be back.
The Texas Insider Fishing Report is brought to you by
Dave, we got some new stuff over here. What do we got over here?
man.
New products.
Yeah, we're going to start off there with the Alvey Glow Bait Bucket, which is a really cool little bucket that Alvey makes. It's made in Australia, designed in Australia, made out of Australian products. It's got 4 little inserts inside, that really tight fitting lid. You can put anything in there, it ain't going to come out. The 4 little inserts, you can take 1 out, 2 out, do whatever you want, any combination.
That's cool. You can separate baits or
You can put bait or
cold
food or cold drinks
Yeah.
or whatever you want to, tote down to the water. And those inserts there are glow in the dark. If you charge them for 2 hours with a light, they'll glow for 10 hours. And, if you're out at night, you can really find,
That's
you can
cool,
find
yeah.
your bucket easy. You can find the stuff inside of it easy. You can even tie a knot in the light from that thing. It glows really hard. It's a 10-liter bucket. Go to alveus.com to check that
Very
bucket
cool.
out. Really cool little bucket. Next, we got some mildew stain blocker. This is not the remover, it's the blocker. If you have mildewy stuff, you spray the mildew stain remover on it, let it dry, and then you hit it with the mildew stain blocker, and it won't come back. What
Right.
this does is it prevents the mildew stains in the beginning. But if you've already got them, hit it with that remover.
And this works this works on everything, like umbrellas
Yes.
at your pool.
Yeah,
and-
exactly. Any
'cause
painted surface,
yeah.
it's non-toxic, it's safe for pets and people. It's for plastic, rubber, fabrics, paints. And like I said, if you've got mildew, spray the remover on it. And you just spray this stuff on after that. Let it dry, wipe it off around the overspray, and it's good for a month. If you put it on there every
It
month.
works well. I've used that before on
Yeah,
some stuff. So.
it's really good in a place where it's tight. If you have a compartment in the front of the boat with
Right.
life jackets in it, let's say, a little bit of water gets in there, mildews up.
Great spot for that stuff.
That keeps it from happening. Next, are the little danglers I had. These are the Pompano catchers. Yeah, from my buddy Pompano Rich. He makes these, and they're great rigs for the surf. I mean, it says Pompano catcher on there, but I catch everything. You can catch trout, pompanos, permits.
These little circle hooks that are on
Yeah,
there.
just a bluefish. I catch everything on them. They use 30-pound fluorocarbon, dropper rigs with the 2. What's really cool about these are these floats. They're crab-proof floats, which if you're fishing in a place where there's a lot of crabs, which is you want to do anyway, especially if you're fishing for redfish, the crabs can't bite these floats. They got a hard little coating on them, so they can't tear them all up like they can do. Really sharp circle hooks on here, small circle hooks. So
and is that for the weight side there? You can attach a weight?
Got a nice dual lock swivel for a weight. So, once you get it on there, you don't have to worry about your weight coming off. Cast these a long way.
That's cool. I like that.
Yeah, they work really good. Yeah. So go to pompanarich.net to get a hold of those.
Different colors as well.
Yeah. Oh, well, exactly. He makes the whites are for the blue water. These are for the aqua colored, and these are for the dark, green, muddy water. And you get different floats for those different waters. Cool. pompanarich.net.
Very cool.
Last but not least, we've got some diamond presentation fluorocarbon leader. If you've watched our show, Eating It All, you see us use this all the time in rigs and techniques and whatnot. It's got a refraction index that's almost exactly salt water. So when you put it in salt water, it disappears pretty much. It's more dense than mono. It doesn't absorb water. It sinks faster. It doesn't stretch as much.
I put this on everything I use. Every single rod has
exactly. It's got good abrasion resistant as well, and very high quality. Comes in the pink. People ask, why do they have it in pink? Well, the pink and red is the first color that disappears in the spectrum. You can see it, but once it gets into the water, again, it's an added, and it goes deeper than 30 feet, it disappears completely. So it's another really cool thing to have. It comes in 10 pound all the way up to 180 pound. 13 sizes in between, 25 yards to 500 yard spools. So
good stuff.
Diamondfishing.com.
Use it every day. Thanks, Dave.
No worries,
Brie,
mate.
Good stuff, guys.
We got the danglers and the line, and what else is going on?
There you go. All right, we're going to motor into the Alvey Reels Lower Coast region, where Captain Chad Kinney is closing us out with red, trout, tuna, and snapper talk. So, Chad, let's get those weekend vibes going, if you please.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, this weekend, ladies Kingfish tournament's coming up Saturday here out of South Padre. And we've had some great weather. We've had a long stretch of good weather, which really helps the inshore and the offshore. So we're going to talk about inshore first. The redfish action is still great around the lower coast jetties, and the trout action along the King Ranch shoreline in North Landcut. They've been starting to really pop up and have some good numbers there in size. Like I said, redfish is still around the Port Aransas, Port Mansfield jetties. Haven't really seen them stay out there that long. Normally it's a fall deal and a spring deal, but these fish are really, really holding. And I think at Mansfield, part of the reason is we just had a dredge down to 24 feet, and you used to be shoaling at 6. So that's a big, big plus there. It's really helping out holding these fish. When you're out there at the jetties, I've really been liking use a Alvey 100. Been talking about these. When you're on the jetty stuff, you size up just a bit. They do a 60, 80, 100 on up, but that 100 for the jetty works really good. Rig it with some 30-pound diamond braid and attach about a 40 to 60-pound Memorial fluorocarbon leader with a 5/0 to 7/0 tail hook. Like they're talking about that pink line. I love that pink. It does fade away right in the water right away, plus it might match Dave's shirt. Yeah. But using a live croaker, a finger mullet works really, really good. A free line, the bait, on the washout and near the rocks works really good. There's plenty of action, especially when you get a little towel movement moving in there. If you want to throw some lures, try some saltwater assassin. I love that magic grass, sea shad. Works really good. But upsize your jig header on the jetties, depending on current. Go to a 1/4 ounce to 3/4 ounce jig. Depending on that. There's plenty of slot reds and some oversized, so you can have plenty of fun in that stuff. We got a Shallow Sport Pro Staff picture here of James Dunks, and they had released over 20, and they kept a few to eat there with his client. So moving into the trout fishing. Trout fishing is actually picking up pretty good. They've been on a good bite on live croaker. Since the weather's been better, like I talked about, the King Ranch shoreline, real finicky on that stuff. It's been good, so it's really turned on up to the land cut. The fish have been out in those deeper grass beds in that 4 to 5 foot of water. You can start seeing them now because you got that trout green look to it a little bit better. That fresh water starting to subside a bit. Right now, the bait size, I'd go with like a 5/0 Eagle Claw tail hook and attach the live bait to that and go ahead and throw it on the edges of the grass and the potholes out there. You make sure you work that bait by twitching it, keep it on that grass bed. You don't want to bury himself in there. You won't get any bite. Twitch it, keep it going out there. There's plenty of good solid trout in that 18 to 22 inch range. Somebody's minds have released some up that 28 to 30 here in the past week or so. In the land cut, hit those drop-offs and guts in the same manner. Let that live bait work for you. You get that bite, slowly dip your rod to it and then set the hook and keep a couple and release the rest if you want to. Moving over to offshore, a lot of people call me all the time. Of course, federal snapper season will be over, but state waters is open year-round here. It's 4 per person. You can go out deeper. Some Blackfin Tuna action is really picking up. Peak season's right about now through October, and there's a few Dorado in the mix. So like I mentioned, federal snapper season over, but state water is good to go. 15 inches and 4 per person. There's plenty of action out there, especially around Mansfield. Here we got a lot of natural structure. You can use jigs. Right now with a lot of current, free line, or even need some bank weights you need to the current picks up a little bit. Take plenty of different baits, like taking sardines, cigar minnows, pogies, squid, fresh bonita if you get them off the shrimp boats. Fish that structure in 59 foot of water. The Garmin really helps you read that bottom, so kind of see if the fish are suspended or not. Also drift along that deal and keep your track line on, so those fish will follow you different areas along the way. Once you stop getting a bite, look at your track, go back around and repeat it. It'll help you out a bunch. Moving to the Blackfin Tuna, they're out there running those deeper shrimp boats. I at least start at 150 foot and out deeper. When they're dragging early in the AM, just pull right by them, dragging your baits. I usually pull 2-3 lines. You put some smaller islander lures on it, either by itself or rigged up with some ballyhoo. When you throw those 3 lines, what it allows you to do is make a lot tighter turns, maneuvering in and around the shrimp boats, whether by their doors or their lines and their nets and stuff. Really helps there. You can get lots of double and triple hookups on this, so you'll have plenty. You don't need to be pulling the 5 to 7 lines. And also once in a while, not a ton of them, but we get a few Dorado mixed up, or also with the tuna there by the shrimp boats. And those Dorado are going to hit the island are also rigged with the ballyhoo. So I got a picture of a young man here, Wesley LaFear, took his picture as his first blackfin tuna he's caught. So he got a little football action.
Thanks, Chad. Here are the shallow sport boats hotspots for the Lower Coast region. Inshore, Lower Coast jetties are holding good numbers of slot and oversized redfish. Offshore, the shrimp boats are working and holding blackfin tuna with some Dorado also in the mix.
Well, gentlemen.
My shirt is not pink.
Your shirt is not pink. It is
red.
not. It
It's
is
red.
red. Well, Tommy, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for
talking
having
all
me.
about flounder. Why do you know so much about flounder?
Well, where I fish, that's in the northeast part of Florida. That's
Yeah?
the flounder
Capital?
mecca of Florida, basically.
It pretty much is, yeah.
It is, but they're fun.
We
They're
catch
fun
them.
fish.
Oh.
Good to
There's a
eat.
few big ones down my way as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ours are bigger.
Can
They
I
are.
just
They
tell
are.
everyone a secret? I have not caught a flounder myself.
Yeah.
It is on my bucket list.
You haven't got one?
Marlin and flounder.
Wow, that's a
That's pretty.
We can do
dichotomy.
both.
I
Let's
know.
do both in one day.
I'm pretty versatile. Can we do both
do
in one
that.
day?
Sure.
Well, Rick will be back next week.
Maybe.
Tommy, maybe.
Maybe.
He might
I don't know if he's going to have them
stay
come
in
back.
Costa Rica, maybe keep fishing.
What
I
about
don't
you?
know.
When's that? When you about to pop?
I don't know.
When you
Any
fit in
day
the
now.
pot?
Any day now. 19
been
days
fanning
until
her.
my due date, but things are happening, guys. Might not be here next week either. All right, Tommy. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having
you
me.
did a great
Thanks, guys.
job. Go out there, catch some fish, guys.
Catch a
Stay
flatty.
cool. Be safe. And we'll see you next
Stay
week.
hydrated.